program.
What you talking about?
The program. The program. Get with the program.
Everybody clap to this. Say what?
Get with the program.
It starts now.
Hello and welcome to Get With The Program Radio Show. I'm your host, Gary Jones. Get With The Program Radio Show is a multicultural, informative, relevant, and entertaining one-hour weekly show offering a diverse combination of guest interviews with questions and comments. And as always, we will act as a positive source of information. Now, today we will be joined in the studio with Dr. Herbert Harris, whom is a retired attorney and author of several books, including How to Make Money in Music, Power Thoughts for Your Success, and our focus today on the book today would be the 12 Universal Laws of Success. Now, as said by Dr. Harris, this book provides an organized, straightforward, step-by-step approach to basic success principles and the laws of the universe under which they operate. So this is going to be a quite interesting conversation. I am looking forward to that. I mean, this guy has got an interesting book. You've got to take a look at it. But before we move any further into the conversation, I'd like to reach out to my very, very good friend, comedian Grave Digger. Grave Digger had something to tell me about J. Anthony Brown and Steve Harvey, man. It is funny. Grave, what you got for me, man? Talk to me.
Konnichiwa to all you people in Japan. But anyway, Gary, I was talking to my man, Mr. J. Anthony Brown. You know, that's my partner, my running partner for years and stuff. And he was on his radio show over there on Steve Harvey. They talking about what to put on a headstone, and they was making it comical. So my man come up with, I told y'all I was sick. Man, I'm going to tell you, we was like dying laughing all of that, because you can like picture that on somebody's headstone. Man, I'm telling you. But hey, I hear y'all still out there keeping up with Gary, with Get With The Program. But I got things to do. Gary know it. He always sending me out on missions and stuff. But, you know, this Grave Digger, I'll be hitting you back. So, y'all, keep on listening to my man Gary and Get With The Program. I'm out of here for now. Peace.
Man, Grave Digger, you know what? That's funny, because you never know when you pass and die. People always want to know what to put on the stone. So that's a good one, man. But that's funny to me. But anyway, before we move any further, I want to take a break for this hot music selection. So sit back, max, relax, and don't touch that dial. Hello and welcome back to Get With The Program Radio Show. I'm your host, Gary Jones. Get With The Program Radio Show is a multicultural, informative, relevant, and entertaining one-hour weekly show, offering you a diverse combination of guest interviews with questions and comments. Now, today we are joined in the studio with Dr. Herbert Harris, whom is a retired attorney and author of several books, including How to Make Money in Music, Power Thoughts for Your Success, and our focus book today is the 12 Universal Laws of Success. And as said by Dr. Harris himself, this book provides an organized, straightforward, step-by-step approach to basic success principles and the laws of the universe under which they operate. Hello, Dr. Harris, and welcome to Get With The Program.
Well, thank you so much, Gary, for having me. My pleasure.
It is a pleasure, sir, to have you here. And I had a chance to take a look at some of your books, and I see you've been busy at this for a while.
I have. You know, we wrote our first book, How to Make Money in Music. Gosh, I hate to even say in the late 70s. And wow. It's actually in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, in their library there.
Oh, wow. So you've been doing this quite a while.
Yes, yes.
And that is true to be so, because I actually looked at the website. You had did some work and studied under and with Dr. Ike, Dr. Reverend Ike.
Reverend Ike, I was his chief of staff for the New York Church and head of the Science of Living Institute for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was a quite interesting guy. He had a lot of strong influence on the community.
And he was so far ahead of his time. And, you know, when he passed, you would be amazed at some of the present people in personal development who attribute their first thoughts and their first real lessons in self-development with Reverend Ike.
Mm-hmm. Now, I see you're a retired attorney.
Yes.
What kind of law did you practice?
Well, in two areas. One, I did a lot of trial work for other lawyers. We call it being a gunslinger. A lot of lawyers don't like to try cases, and so they would hire me to come in and try the cases for them. And then entertainment law. We worked with a lot of entertainers and really wanted to help entertainers get a good deal in the music industry.
And that's very important as well, because a lot of artists, I find, even the early artists in the days, they died broke.
Most of them did, man. When you look at people like Jackie Wilson, my daughter did some research. She's an entertainer, and just amazed that he died literally broke in a nursing home.
All that money. Sammy Davis Jr., he had some issues. I think he had some issues as well.
Oh, yeah.
Why do you think that happened?
They didn't understand the business. You know, the business, it's music business with a capital B.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of the artists just wanted to sing, man. I just want to let my talents come out into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't really understand, like, intellectual property, that a record, a recording, the copyright is worth more than all the engagements you ever sing.
Wow. So the copyright and the publishing.
And the publishing, that's where the big money is, because that's long-term money.
Okay.
You take a song like For Once in My Life.
Mm-hmm.
Stevie Wonder did it. A number of other people did it. Orlando Merton was one of the writers. A friend of mine is taking care of him all his life.
Wow. So actually what we're saying is the person that writes the song is the one who reaps the benefits in the future, because once the artist that performed it eventually will pass one day.
Yeah.
So he's not getting any more performances for the road shows.
That's it.
Now we're making money off the publishing.
Out the publishing.
Wow.
It's amazing. The music business is business. And one thing I love about the young people, the rappers, the P. Diddy's, and all the young people who came along, they understand the business of music.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see how much money they've made, you figure this: that money was there all along, but all of it was going to the companies. Now these young people have shown us the way to make that money come to them.
So they kind of figured this thing out.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, in the beginning, rap was left off the screen. You know, you couldn't get on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wanted to touch it until, was it Sugar Hill? Remember Sylvia?
Right.
When
Sylvia Robinson?
Yes,
Was that-
Sylvia
yes.
Robinson.
Mhm,
When
mhm.
Sugar Hill came, that was like a crossover.
Mhm.
But up until that time, you know, the other record companies didn't want to be bothered with rap, and so these guys owned their own masters, they owned their own songs, they owned the copyrights, they owned everything.
Now, do you think this particular structure was built by design to block the African Americans from getting into the music industry?
I think it was built by design to keep one bunch rich and the other group poor.
I understand. Now, I hear people say that the industry is owned by the Jewish community. Does they have a lot to do with the music industry?
Not that much anymore.
Okay.
You know, there was a time it was very a strong clique. You know, in the old days of, you know, roulette records, and there was a strong clique with the Jewish community because there was a traditional entertainment thing. The Jewish community had a lot of experience in entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
and they were open-minded.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Harlem Globetrotters, the Jewish community took many of the black artists into places they'd never been before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Della Reese, when she was a young singer, she had a manager who took her into the nightclubs. And so for that reason, you know, I think it was a good blend. The Jewish community had the connections, they had the network, and they brought along a lot of the black entertainers. Now, whether the division of the money was fair, I can't tell you that now.
So probably without the direction in the Jewish community, or even the white faces spearheading the African Americans, we got in places that we probably wouldn't have got in without them.
Right.
I'm sure
right,
during
right.
that time anyway.
That time, sure. Oh,
Right.
yeah.
And the Chitlin Circus, because we were doing a lot of shows in the Chitlin Circus that we could perform in, but to get internationally into the big places, we had to be approached by other people.
And you had to do different things. You know, when we were studying Jackie Wilson, for example,
Mm-hmm.
he was a person that had such a magnificent voice.
Mm-hmm.
But when he went into, you might say, the white community, they wanted him to sing white songs. And so when he sang Danny Boy, okay, he said, well,
Mm-hmm.
ain't no way he could sing Danny Boy because he's used to singing, you know, Betty Lou's Got a New Pair of Slippers or something. But when he sang Danny Boy, he brought something to Danny Boy that had everybody in the concert hall crying.
And what was that?
Huh?
He bought something that made them all cry. What did he bring to him?
Well, when he sang Danny Boy,
Mhm.
which was an old, I think it's a Scottish and Irish folk song, and he sang it with feeling, and he sang it with skill. When he said, "Oh, Danny Boy, the pipes are calling." Man, people looked at from glen to glen and o'er the mountainside. I mean, he brought it down. Then when he went up into that upper register, you know, he sang it straight. And then when he went upstairs, it blew it out.
It was another whole ball game.
Yes, sir.
All right. So We did mention that you had studied under the Reverend Dr. Ike earlier.
Yes.
And I did say that he was a brilliant guy. What kind of influences did he have on you?
Well, a profound influence, because he was the first person that really showed me the relationship between, say, the Bible and personal development.
Okay.
He was one of the early New Thought ministers. He was like really the first mega minister who used the radio and television very effectively. And he took that whole idea of religion to a level of spirituality.
Okay.
And so instead of quoting scripture, he would quote principles. And so, for example, a lot of the book was based on that philosophy. For example, the first law of success: as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That's scripture. Now, he would interpret that in the sense that, your thoughts have a emotional nature, and whatever you feel and whatever you think work together. So he used to say, feeling gets the blessing. If you feel rich, if you feel healthy, then you attract health into your life. He was an early proponent of what they call it, the law of attraction.
Okay.
So he said, if you can see it, you can be it. If you can feel it, you can attract it into your life.
Now, he had some very good quotes. I remember I was a young man. My grandmother used to follow that one a lot. And I do kind of vaguely remember, and I see some things on YouTube about him. And he had one line that I can clearly remember. You can't lose
with the stuff I use. And the second part of that was, you can't miss with stuff like this.
See, so he was rapping back then. He was an incredible guy, but you're right. He had the mega church. He was really big back then.
Yes.
So tell me about who Dr. Harris is. Your family, are you from this area?
Actually, I'm from Wilmington.
Okay.
And came along in the era, sort of at the ending of the segregation era, and left the segregated schools and went to Columbia University in New York, where I studied. I got a full scholarship there. And so that gave me a whole nother perspective. Coming to an Ivy League school from a segregated school was like, man, walking out of a fan into a hurricane. But it made you step up and do what you had to do. And it gave me a chance to see the world.
Right. So, yeah, because coming through the civil rights era, you got to see a lot.
Absolutely.
And you had a lot of challenges.
Yes.
And coming up with the thought process of being a writer and an author, of course, and being a doctor and an attorney, of course, you had the knowledge. You could see a lot of things that a lot of us couldn't see.
Right. And you can understand it. A lot of times you can see things and not really have an understanding of what's going on. You know, like when you were asking me about the Jewish community, the Italian community, to understand it from a money point of view as opposed to a racial point of view. In the bottom line, everybody wants to make money. You look at the bus boycotts. Nobody got a moral awakening and said, oh, one day we're doing something wrong.
Right.
But what happened, they said, we're losing money.
At the end of the day, it's about the dollar.
At the end of the day, it's about the dollar.
Right. You have to pay the bills at the end of the day. Now, Dr. Harris, what inspired you to write books?
Well, I've always wanted to share. And as a young man, I was an only child, and so I was always writing. It's something I felt very comfortable with. And as I began to move on through life, I wanted to write more. This book, The 12 Universal Laws of Success, actually evolved from teaching a class. I was teaching a class at Malcolm King College. And, the power of the mind is awesome. One day I woke up, I was practicing law. My law practice was in the building where the college was. And one day I woke up and I said, I'd like to teach this stuff. I see what it's done for people who come to my seminars. Within an hour, while I was out jogging, I ran into Dr. Mattie Cook, who was the president. I said, Dr. Cook, I'd like to teach a course on success. And she said, well, what's the name of the course? And out of the blue, I came up with the title, Achievement Motivation. She said, I love it. Can you start tomorrow? So I had to put something together, and when I looked at a lot of the success books, it's like the difference between reading a recipe book and a book on cooking. Okay? If you want to make a cake, read a recipe book. If you want to learn about cooking, read the cooking book. And so I looked at success with the group I had. Many of them had been to school before, had been out and had families, and so I would say they were more mature students, and so they needed to get it right away. They went. And so the 12 Universal Laws of Success began as a set of notes abstracted from all these other success books to make it very understandable very quickly and in a simple form. And it grew from there. From once we started teaching there, it made a big difference in the performance of the students. We even taught at the School of Podiatry. At one point at the School of Podiatry in New York, the dropout rate among minority students was like 90%.
Oh my goodness, 90%.
90%, and we cut it in half in a year. Because you had anything you want to do depends on how you see yourself, how you feel about yourself, and how you respond to the world around you. So if you feel that the world is out to get you, then it's out to get you.
Now, being an author, this is a rhetorical question. Being an author, how important do you think it is to read? Because I hear all the time, if you want to get someone confused or you want to hide something to African Americans, they say, put it in a book.
Yes, yes.
How important? What does that mean?
I think it's critical because most of our knowledge is based on reading. Everything and all the good knowledge is written down somewhere. And so when you read more, you expand your awareness and read with understanding. In our book, the first chapter is called How to Study. Because very rarely, even in colleges, they never teach you how to study, but that's a course in itself. And so once you teach a person how to study, then anything that they want to know, they have a foundation and a technique for learning it. And so reading is critical because it gives you a chance to expand your exposure, expand your thoughts, and your life begins with your thoughts. The thoughts that you have are like your yard. And the more you read, the bigger your yard becomes. And so one day your yard encompasses the whole world when you've read and seen. I was looking at a nice piece on James Baldwin the other day, and just how Baldwin, once he left Harlem and he went to Europe, he had a whole different world there. He said, I'm getting out of America. That I'm doing. And once he went to Paris and lived there, he wrote incredible things. And so exposure comes through reading. And
that was going to be a question I was going to touch on very importantly is reading is really a very important piece.
Yes.
But as growing up in America, as African Americans in the earlier years, what we were taught to read wasn't always good for us.
Right, right.
So what is your take on that? Because we've been taught to read certain things. We have missed a lot of our African American history in the earlier years. So what was that all about?
Well, one of the great revolutionaries used to say, history is his story. Okay.
Oh, wow. So that's how you break the word down.
Yeah, it's his story.
His story. Wonderful. Okay. I like that.
Yeah. And so in school, the school systems, when they start teaching you stuff that are a part of his story, you're left out.
A part of his story.
That's it. And so a young black person can literally go through school and have no idea of the greatness of his heritage, of where he comes from. And that impacts children all around. It impacts teachers. In Malcolm X's biography, he was saying at one point that he was a very smart kid. And he was saying he wanted to be a lawyer, I think, or a doctor. And the school counselor said, well, your kind can't do that. You should maybe consider doing something with your hands, like maybe carpentry or become a mechanic. And so this paradigm affects everybody. And so what you read, and that's why it's so important that we teach people about our history. That when you go, one of the things that I wanted to do was to go to Egypt and study with somebody who knew what they were talking about. So I went and studied with Dr. Ben. And Dr. Ben is a premier Egyptologist, a black scholar, but he was a contemporary of all the greats. I mean, even back to the Conti Cullen. I mean, he had that type of lineage. So when you go to Egypt and you visit the pyramids and the different historical places, he gives you a whole nother perspective on it. We'd go out and we'd see the place in the morning, and then in the afternoon when it got hot, he would come back to the hotel and teach.
Wonderful.
And so you may see the temple of Hatshepsut, and then come back and learn how a woman pretended to be a man for 18 years and ruled the country.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Just for my listeners, in case you're just joining into the show today, we are joined in the studio with Dr. Herbert Harris, whom is a retired attorney and author of several books, including How to Make Money in Music, Power Thoughts for Your Success. And our primary focus book today is the 12 Universal Laws of Success. And as said by Dr. Harris himself, this book provides an organized, straightforward, step-by-step approach to basic success principles and the laws of the universe under which they operate. But what we're going to do, Dr. Harris, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to touch more about the book and the laws of success.
Absolutely.
All right. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back after this important message. Get with the program. Hello and welcome back to Get With The Program radio show. Again, I'm your host, Gary Jones, and we are joined in the studio today with Dr. Herbert Harris. And we are going to have a wonderful conversation with you already started, the 12 Universal Laws of success. Now, Dr. Harris, we had talked about what inspired you to write books, and what who are some of your favorite authors? Give me one or two of your favorite authors.
Well, of course, Napoleon Hill.
Okay.
Yeah, Napoleon Hill really laid it down. W. Clement Stone, the older guys, because they treated success from you might say, a technical point of view.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Mm-hmm. Tony Robbins, one of my good friends, I walked on coals with him, and his books have been very, very inspiring. There's so many. Robert Collier, Secret of the Ages. Many. Yeah.
And a lot of these authors that you mentioned, some of them, I heard a couple of them, but I haven't heard of some of those authors, which this need to be taught in our schools.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to teach, I noticed that young people now read everything on a screen. And, the whole school thing is done through computers. And there's something about knowledge that you get that way. I don't think it sinks in as much as when you read it in a book and when you underline it and when you review it. Mm-hmm. And so when you're reading something on a screen, one of my associates was editing a book, and I was sharing. I said, I like to print it out as an editor to see the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Because when you read it on the screen, you only see one page at a time. But when you can look at the whole thing in front of you, you can get a different perspective on it.
So you think it has a better approach when you're reading it?
When you're reading it, yes. Yeah.
Okay. We're going to touch the book now. Again, the book is the 12 Universal Laws of Success.
Yes.
Now, the universal law of thought is one of those. When we say the universal law of thought,
yes.
What are we talking about?
The foundation of everything is thought. And the scripture that says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So there's a rational part to the thought, but there's also the feeling part to the thought. So a person can be talking wealth, but feeling poverty. You'll have many times people will say they want success, but inside don't feel that they can accomplish it. They may not be worthy of it. They may not feel that they have the skill. You see it a lot in sports. Guys, man, I'm the baddest dude on the block. But he said, well, why don't you go on in the game and play? Man, my knee hurts. Okay.
All right.
So that law of thought is key, that your thinking and your feeling have to be on one accord.
Okay.
And so if you're thinking health, then feel healthy and act healthy.
Right. And then in some of your subtopics I did see in that chapter was a self-image, the 5 signals of a poor self-image. What are those, for example?
Well, it's interesting. Of the 5, the 2 most critical are that when you criticize other people, because nobody ever wants to own up and say, well, I have a poor self-image. But if you find that you criticize other people all the time, always critical, and we know a lot of people that are critical, that they are often critical because they themselves have a poor self-image. Mm. Then you have people who are always making excuses, that, as we say, they're always dealing with a problem. It's always a problem going on. And they never, ever accomplished it. They never resolved the problem. It's always somebody else's fault. You're causing this. You're causing that.
It's the blame. It's the blame.
The blame syndrome.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are the ways? How do we improve this self-image thing?
Well, one of the key things is to really use your imagination. In other words, you can be anything you want to be. Albert Einstein said imagination is more important than knowledge. And so if you're not happy with where you are, then try to see a different picture of yourself. When you see other people being successful, Reverend Ike used to say when he was a young man and he saw people in these Rolls Royces, okay, instead of being jealous and saying, oh, they probably did something wrong to get it, he said, it's great to know that somebody can make that kind of money to buy one of those things. I'm going to be one of those people.
Yep. And you know that is I hear a lot of people talk about the preachers today with these big wonderful cars and not being truly involved in the community.
Right.
You know, the preacher's not giving back to the community. And I'm gonna touch on that at the end, closer to the end of the show. That's another conversation.
Yeah.
Now, what is the universal law of change? This is number 2.
Now that's the foundation of everything. In other words, scripture that says, "Be not conformed to this world," means that whatever your condition may be, you may be unhappy, you may be broke, you may be coming out of a bad relationship, that whatever your condition is, you don't have to stay stuck. It says, "Be not conformed to this world, but be you transformed, be you changed by the renewing of your mind." And so, if you can think a new thought of your situation, then you can change it. And so if it was a bad relationship, then you can visualize and say, well, what would a good relationship look like? What would it be like to have my life surrounded, have myself surrounded by people who honor me, who love me, who encourage me?
And I see where thought comes in at.
That's it.
So the change in the thought, those are connected.
That's it. You see?
Okay.
It builds on each other. Change your thinking, you change your life.
And then we have next the universal law of vision.
Well,
Tell me about that
vision is powerful, and that's something that we're doing, online. We've been doing a class. It's a series of webinars called New You for a New Life.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is the first step in that transformation is to create the new vision of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see yourself? What do you see yourself to be? If you can create a vision of yourself, that vision becomes the blueprint for your life. And to look into different areas. How do you see yourself personally? Do you see yourself overweight, or do you see yourself healthy? How do you see yourself in relationships? Do you see people around you who love you? And do you see yourself interacting with people in a positive way? How do you see yourself financially? Are you always talking about getting enough gas money? Or are you talking about, why don't I just buy the dealership?
Right. That's a good observation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so in our New You for a New Life, we're doing an 8-step process. These 8 webinars. And it goes from vision, that once you can create a new vision of yourself, and once again, there's a spiritual foundation that says, write the vision and make it plain.
I've heard that several times, put it on paper.
That's it. Write the vision, make it plain upon tablets, that he may run that readeth it. If you don't have it written, you can't follow the plan.
Now, in that chapter, I noticed that you had the rhythms of life.
Yes.
So life has a rhythm.
Life has a rhythm. Well, there are 3 foundations to the universe, and it's principle, and we'll call it law, order, change, and time.
And time is really important. Yeah.
And so rhythm is change over time.
Okay.
Okay. And so the rhythms of life, when you find yourself in rhythm with life, everything goes well for you. The things that you expect come about. The people you need to meet attracted to you. And so you create a harmonic vibration with that, whatever you want. One of the breakthroughs of Reverend Ike was people had a bad attitude about money. They misquoted the Bible. Money is the root of all evil, and that the Bible doesn't even say that.
It's the love of money.
It's the love of money.
Because I've heard that you can put $1 million on a table. It'll sit there and it's not going to say anything.
That's right.
A move.
That's it.
But if you go grab it or steal it, you did that because you love it.
That's it, the love of money. And so just that thought, just changing that mindset that money is an awesome servant, but a terrible master. So money can do your bidding. If you want to change the world, money's a great tool. Look at the guys like Bill Gates and people who are changing the world with their money. So it's a good thing. So that's one of the things you start to create a new vision of yourself. Set goals that based on your vision, now you can set goals because the goals are the stair steps to your vision. So say if we're at a college here, and the person said, well, I want to get a PhD. I said, well, where are you right now? Well, I'm in 11th grade of high school. Well, what are the steps? Well, first, you need to graduate from high school with a 3.8, 3.9 average. So that's goal number 1. You need to get involved, get accepted at the college of your choice. That's goal number 2. And then you need to pass your classes there so that you can graduate with a 3.8 average. That's goal number 3. And then once you've set those goals now, then you can develop action plans.
That's part of that vision.
That's it.
Now you have the universal law of command. So we're talking about. I'm interested on that one.
Well, then,
command.
In the Bible, it says, "In the beginning was the Word, the command." And so the law of command says, what you say is what you get. In addition to your thoughts, you manifest your thoughts by what you say. So when you say it, you get it. So speak good things. The law of command says never say anything bad about yourself. Only talk good things, empowering things.
There's power in the tongue.
That's it. The power of the tongue will give you life or give you death.
Mm-hmm.
And so that law of command is so awesome because what you call it is what it is. You know, there's an African proverb that says, it's not the name you call me, it's the name I answer to. So
I hope my listeners, Dr. Herbert Harris is giving us some strong nuggets today. Truly.
Yeah.
Now, number 5 was one that stuck out to me. The universal law of human magnetism. Now, that one, I wonder, what is that one?
Well, we call it the law of attraction. The old folks call it birds of a feather flock together. That's how your grandmama would say it. Okay.
Okay.
And so
I've heard that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the law of human magnetism says that you attract what you are. And so if you're a thief, you're going to attract other thieves. You know, it's very interesting. A friend of mine in New York was always bought stolen stuff. And so you go down the street and there are 100 cars on the street. What's the one car that gets broken into? His car, because he has the vibration of a thief. So the law of magnetism says, create within you the vibrations of the people you want to meet. So when you want to meet happy people, appear happy, project happiness. If you want to meet motivated people, then walk with purpose. So that law of magnetism says you attract what you are. If there's somebody in your life that is not in your best interest, not treating you well, you may not be able to change them, but look inside and say, well, what am I doing to attract that person into my space? Maybe I'm showing weakness. Maybe I'm showing that I'm hungry for love. I want to be loved by somebody, and I attract somebody that's not good for me.
Oh, wow. That's I'm glad you said that, because I'm sure everyone have experienced that before, once or twice in their lives.
Oh, yeah.
Now we have the universal law of focus.
Yes. Focus is so powerful because the same sun that warms us outside, if you focus it through a magnifying glass, can create a fire. And so with our thoughts are like lights. When we focus on something we want, we give intention. In other words, we intend that thing to happen, and we give attention. We focus our energy on it. Whatever you recognize in your thoughts, you energize in your feeling nature. Whatever you energize in your feeling nature, you realize in your life. And so whatever you focus on grows. If you focus on goodness, it grows. If you focus on success, it grows. If you focus on failure, that grows too. So focus says whatever you focus on grows, and focus is tied in with self-discipline, because you have to be disciplined to focus yourself. Otherwise, all the distractions of life will pull you away.
That's wonderful to know. Now we have the universal law of action.
Ooh-wee.
Because talk is cheap.
Talk is cheap. It's when the rubber hits the road.
That's right.
In the Bible it says, whatsoever your hand findeth to do, do it with all your might. So the seventh law of success, that law of action, says how to do what must be done efficiently and effectively. What do you have to do to get things done? The moment you've made a decision and decided to take action, it's good to know how to act. It's good to know what to do. So how do you convert a goal, a 1-year goal, into what do I need to do today? So the law of action will say, take that 1-year goal, break it down into 12 monthly goals. Take the first month, break it down into 4 weekly goals. Take the first week, break it down into 5 daily goals. And then take the first day and figure out what you need to do today that will put you where you want to be a year from today.
Ain't that wonderful? Because I hear this term a lot about have faith, but faith without
works
is nothing.
That's it.
That's it. So you got to make some action happen. The universal law of value.
Ooh, that's interesting. You know, in the Bible it says, don't cast your pearls before swine. In other words, the things that are valuable and important to you, don't give them to anything that's not worthy of it. So don't waste your time on unproductive endeavors. Don't waste your money on frivolous things. Don't waste don't waste your energy. I hate it when the young people are chilling. So what are you doing? I'm doing absolutely nothing. Just sitting here. I've gotten a new definition of chilling being around young people. It's like purposefully doing nothing to make something happen. So it can have some good connotations, but that whole idea of value is important, especially with respect to time.
Mm-hmm.
You see, everything else can be either replaced or repeated. You can get it. You can repeat your actions. You can think a thought again, but you can't replace the time that it took to do it.
You're absolutely right. Because there's something that it was a joke that I remember as a kid. What people always say, what goes up comes down.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one thing that goes up that never comes down.
That's it.
And that's age.
That's it.
And that's time.
That's it.
You can't bring that back.
That's it.
That's gone.
See?
Yeah.
And so you have to value it. We often say in our course, the 8 seminar session we're doing, we do a whole piece on time management. In other words, what is the best use of my time right now when I consider my goals, my vision, and my purpose?
Mm-hmm.
And then, as they say in church, act accordingly.
Ain't that wonderful? Now, the universal law of relationship.
Mm.
Are we talking about a relationship, man and woman relationship, or are we just talking about relationships generally? With
All
everyone?
relationships.
All relationships.
There's
Mhm.
the first order relationship is a relationship with your Creator. If you're not clear on whose you are and where you come from, then it's like you don't have that center. When you relate to your Creator by whatever name, when you relate to that Creator, then that gives you a good relationship. And you say, hey, I'm here for a purpose. You have to have a relationship with yourself. If you don't like yourself, if you're not clear on whose you are, then you might accept the definition of you given by the system, or the definition of you given by the police,
Mhm.
or the definition of you given by a teacher, or somebody who should be saying something good to you saying something bad. Definition given you by a parent. You know, many times we don't choose our parents, and many times our parents may not be clear. And so that idea of relationship with your source, so you know whose you are, and then that means now you can understand who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Relationship with others.
Mm-hmm.
If you come to another person, a broken person, then you can only share that essence that you are. And so many times people get into relationships, you have two broken people trying to create a wholeness, and it never works.
It never works.
Okay.
Right. So knowing who you are is a very important piece, which goes back to reading.
Yes.
Knowing who you are as a person.
Yes.
Knowing your history.
Yes.
And history is very important. A lot of people I find, actually, let me just be real with it. I have had a conversation with some people before, and they're quick to tell me that I don't want to hear anything about black history or the slave period or what happened to us or the beatings and all that. They don't want to hear that. Mm-hmm. And I asked them why. They said because it's just going to make me mad and we don't need to teach that in the books. Well, at some point, I don't know if they know who they are.
Yes.
I question that sometimes. I'm not sure. Now, number 10, the universal law of supply.
Mm-hmm. Well, the idea is that you always have, the universe is created whole. Everything that we need is here. Otherwise, God didn't finish. Okay? So God absolutely finished. So everything we have is here. We just have to raise our consciousness to the level where we can see it, where we can comprehend it. So the law of supply says you already have everything you need to get everything you want. There's always enough of whatever you need to get whatever you want. And so you don't have to look enviously at somebody else, knowing that if they can get it, it's right there for you. You don't have to be jealous of other people's accomplishment. You can say, if they can do it, I can do it. So that law of supply says whatever you need is there for you. You just have to look differently. Sometimes your eyesight may be so bound, it's like driving your car looking in the rearview mirror. You may be so focused on past failures that when present opportunities come, you don't see it because you're looking in the rearview mirror. You ever drive looking in the rearview mirror? You're going forward and you're looking behind.
And you miss everything in front of you.
There you go.
That's right. Now, the universal law of persistence.
Woo-wee. I'll tell you something, Gary.
That's kind of self-explanatory, but I want to hear your point on that one.
Well, you know, persistence creates a power within us.
Mm-hmm.
That many times faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. And so persistence, the scripture says, seek and you shall find. Okay? Knocking it shall be open, asking it shall be answered. But it doesn't say how long.
Mm-hmm.
And persistence says if you do it until, you'll always get it. So you knock until they open the door. Okay, you seek until you find the answer. And persistence says you just got to keep doing it. That the more you do it, every success you have along the way builds your faith and builds your confidence. And see, the stronger your faith, it goes back to the law of human magnetism. When you meet a person whose faith is strong, it radiates out, and people will follow them and help them and do whatever they need.
That's powerful. Now we to the last one. One of the all of them are important, but this one is another one that stuck out to me. The universal law of truth.
Yes.
Tell me about that one.
Scripture that says, know the truth, and the truth will make you free. And the truth is that life operates by principles. Just as you have physical principles of gravity and the physical universe, you have spiritual principles of love, of thought, of emotions. And so the law of truth says, when you figure out your relationship to these principles, and then when you harmonize with them, when you think good thoughts, when you change your mind to conform to the life you want, when you create a vision of the way you want to be, when you speak that vision, through that law of command, and when you keep rolling at it by being focused, by being disciplined, by learning how to get action, get results, then you will truly bring into your life exactly the life that you want to live.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful. Now, so that kind of wraps up those 12 laws, but to my listeners, that's just the iceberg of this book. He gave you some of the interesting points in the book, but you got to get the book yourself and read it, because he has some interesting stuff that I'm surely would change your lives. Now, Dr. Harris, you also, I read in your bio, you also you are an experienced motivational speaker.
Yes.
So you can come out and speak to some
We
engagements.
can come out and speak, and our website, www.herbertharris.com. And when you go there, you'll see information about the book. You can get the book, information about you can see a lot of my videos. You can also learn about our New You for a New Life program.
And that website again is
www.herbertharris.com.
And it's HERBERT. Okay. Now what's the number they can reach you at, or a number they can reach you at?
Absolutely. 910-262-2680.
2680. 910-262-2680 is Dr. Herbert Harris's number. Again, the website is www.herbertharris.com.
Yes.
Okay, and there it is, right there. You can get that book. And once again, if you missed the show today, you just joined in. We was in the studio today with Dr. Herbert Harris, whom is a retired attorney and author of several books, including How to Make Money in the Music, Power Thoughts for Your Success, and the book that we focus on today was The 12 Universal Laws of Success. And we just touched the iceberg of that. and I'm very interested in bringing you back onto the show, because I hear that you have some more knowledge that I want to reach out at.
Yes.
I'm going to bring you back on this show. I'm very proud to have you here today. Anything you'd like to tell my listeners before we take off?
Well, I'll tell you this. I like to say this. The 7 steps, we call it. Thoughts should be processed through your feelings. So think good thoughts. Feel good about yourself. Write these thoughts down as a form of a goal. Take action on them. Never quit, and you will be successful. The one who wins is the one who stays in the game until the end. And then finally, remember this: the best is yet to come.
That's wonderful. There you have it, my listeners. Once again, in the studio today with Dr. Herbert Harris. We had a wonderful show. And once again, as I say always, my name is Gary Jones. I'm the producer and co-host of Get With The Program radio show. And you want to get on the show, make no mistake, go to the website, www.getwiththeprogram.biz. Shoot me an email. Tell me what it is you want to talk about. We'll see if we can get you on the show. But once again, thank you so much, Dr. Herbert Harris, for being here today. And I look forward to bringing you back here again.
Very good thing. I really appreciate you, Gary.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to Get With The Program. I'm your host, Gary Jones. So until next time, stay positive and always remember to
Get with the program.
What you talking about?
The program. The program. Get with the program.
Everybody clap to this.
Say what? Get with the program.
It starts now.